So let's talk about a concept that gets a really bad rap, Geburah. It's usually translated as severity, which sounds, well, pretty harsh, maybe even a little evil. But the source material we're diving into today shows it in a totally different light. It's not about punishment. It's about being a powerful, incredibly precise tool for radical transformation. Think of it as the art of cosmic surgery. And that brings us to this central question we really have to wrestle with. It's a paradox, right? But it's at the absolute heart of Geburah. The idea that to build something genuinely new, something strong and authentic, you first have to find the courage to tear down what's already there. And this explainer, it's basically your guide to that exact process. Okay, let's start with the basics. Geburah is the fifth Sephirah on the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's this sphere of cosmic energy that holds some of the most intense forces in the universe. People often call it strength or severity, and really, its job is to act as a crucial counterbalance to all the forces of expansion and, unchecked mercy. And here we have the sigil of Geburah, which just perfectly captures the whole concept. This isn't just some abstract drawing. It's a focal point for a very specific kind of divine power. And this power isn't about blind rage or chaos, no way. It's about sharp, precise judgment, order, and the will to push things toward a state of perfection, even if getting there is an incredibly tough road. Now, just look at the range of these attributes. You see things like destruction, fear, and judgment sitting right next to will, discipline, and courage. And you might think, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But that's the point. Geburah teaches that real power, true courage, it comes from facing the very things we're scared of. It comes from going through judgment and embracing that discipline. It's the force that cuts, for sure, but it always, always cuts with a purpose. So here is the absolute key to this whole thing. The emissaries of Geburah, the agents of this force, they're not cosmic vandals out to wreck your life. The source material calls them surgeons of the cosmos. How cool is that? Their job is to find what's false, what's stagnant, what's basically a cancer to your soul, and to surgically remove it. Yeah, the process is painful, of course it is, but the goal is always health and purification. To really get the purpose behind all this destructive power, the source uses this fantastic, and yeah, a little unsettling, metaphor. It calls the agents of Geburah the system's ideal vampires. But what in the world are they feeding on? And this is the distinction that changes everything. They don't drain your life force. They drain your illusions. They feed on that puffed up, neurotic, self-important ego that holds us all back. They basically starve our insecurities, our fake identities, and our cozy little delusions until all that's left is the authentic self. It's a draining process, absolutely. But what it's draining is the poison, not the lifeblood. Now, this cosmic surgery isn't chaotic. Oh no. It is a highly structured 5-stage process. The source calls it a cascade, where each stage, or what they call a face, gets you ready for the next one, pulling you deeper and deeper into this transformative fire. So let's take a look at the roadmap. Each of these steps is personified by an emissary, an agent with a super specific job. You go from surrendering your defenses with Gilakad all the way to burning it all down with rush guts, and then finally finding this new sense of unity with Hayahab. It's a journey from the outside in, taking apart the false to reveal what's truly real. All right, so now let's get our hands dirty and look at the actual tools of this transformation. We're going to explore each of the 5 emissaries in detail and really try to understand them as specialized instruments for this deep psychic surgery. Each one has its own unique function and its own unique way of doing things. First up, we have Gikad. His title is the Invulnerable, and his role is to kick the whole process off. He's the first filter. When you run into Gikad's energy, it's a strange thing. External conflicts just seem to fizzle out. Any aggression coming at you gets neutralized, which forces you to turn your gaze inward. Suddenly, there's nowhere left to run. Gikad's method is all about total absorption. He doesn't fight back. He just floods the situation with the deep, dark waters of the unconscious. This is what dissolves that hardened ego armor, that defensive shell we all build up. It forces you to just surrender. The archetype here is the stern priest. He doesn't argue with you, but his silent, powerful presence just compels you to finally face yourself. So once Gikad has taken care of your external defenses, Bais comes in to dismantle your internal ones. He's known as the paradoxical, and Bais is the agent who shatters your most cherished beliefs, your intellectual high ground. He's the force behind that cosmic joke that can suddenly make your entire life's work feel totally meaningless. Baez works through pure shock therapy. For anyone who knows Tarot, he is literally the Tower card. He demolishes those towers of Babel we build in our minds, all the dogmas, the certainties, the pride we have in what we think we know. It's terrifying for sure, but by reducing your mental fortress to rubble, he frees up all the raw, primal potential that was trapped inside. His archetype is the trickster, or the fool, whose seeming madness reveals a much deeper wisdom. Okay, so after your mental constructs are broken, Vaya arrives to take care of your social ones. Titled The Secretly Detached, Vaya's whole purpose is to create this profound sense of isolation. But listen, this isn't a punishment. Not at all. It's about creating a sacred vacuum, a deep silence where you can finally, maybe for the first time, hear your own true voice. Vaya's method is to make all that external validation just feel hollow, you know? Social masks start to slip away, your big achievements lose their shine, and the applause from the crowd just fades into silence. This forces you into a kind of existential loneliness where the only authority left to turn to is the one inside you. The archetype is the wise elder, who's just moved beyond needing anyone else's approval. And now we get to the most intense phase. This is the domain of Rashguts, the transmuter. This is the alchemical furnace. Rashguts takes all those deconstructed pieces of your old self, the dissolved ego, the shattered intellect, the social identity you've shed, and he throws them all into an annihilating fire. This, right here, is the dark night of the soul. His method is to push you right through a personal catastrophe. It's the experience of total loss, where it feels like your entire world has been burned to ash. But Rashguts isn't just about destruction. His archetype is the phoenix. He oversees the process of rising from those very ashes, being reborn with a new, vital, and totally indestructible sense of who you are. He literally turns pain into the fuel for your own resurrection. Finally, after the fire of Rajguts, Hayahab, the dissolving, shows up to complete the work. If Rajguts was the raging fire, Hayahab is the cool water of baptism that comes after. He finishes the process not with force, but with a gentle, total integration of the new self. Hayahab's method is this beautiful paradox of softness. He dissolves the very last of your rigid boundaries, not by breaking them, but through this overwhelming sense of empathy and surrender. The will to dominate and control is transformed into a will to create and unite. The archetype of the wise ruler or the alchemist is someone who doesn't need force anymore, because they can guide reality with grace and wisdom. So let's just pull all of that together for a second. This gives us a fantastic bird's eye view. You've got Gillikhad and Boz acting as the primary filter, dissolving our outer and inner defenses. Then Vijaya comes in and provides the axis for real individuation, forcing us to find our own center. And finally, Rashguts and Hayahab perform the final transmutation, burning away the old and integrating the new. It's a complete, systematic process of spiritual alchemy. So what's the result of all this? This intense, 5-step cosmic surgery? It is not emptiness. It is not ruin. It is a rebirth, a new self, one that's been forged in fire, stripped of all illusion, and grounded in an authentic strength that simply cannot be shaken. And this, right here, this is the ultimate takeaway from our source material. The power of Geburah is the key to true creation. Think about it. You can't paint a masterpiece on a canvas that's already cluttered with old, faded drawings. You have to be willing to face the terrifying blankness of a cleared canvas. That disintegration isn't failure. It's the prerequisite for becoming the true author of your own life. So, as we close this out, I'm going to leave you with this question. The process we've just outlined, it's a map. It's a map for how to trade comforting lies for hard-won, indestructible truth. The only real question is, what illusion in your own life, about yourself, about the world, are you willing to place on that alchemist's anvil, to be burned away, so that something real and truly strong can be forged in its place?